discuss today. We can understand particularly in English literature start ends daily 17th century, and it means we can say that the 17th century English literature also. And particularly in English literature, it is coincides with the age of Queen Elizabeth I. Yeah, of course, Shakespeare, Christopher Marlowe, Ben Jonson, and Edmund Spenser, and Thomas, what it is called, North, particularly Richard Hooker, Robert Greene. These are Thomas Lodge. These are university wits. Sir Philip Sidney, Spenser. These are the poets who are belongs to the 17th century literature, particularly the Renaissance. During the period of Queen Elizabeth I. Hence, it is called as Elizabethan age also. So, Elizabethan age is the significant age in English literature because the English drama, English poetry, English prose was we read from this period only, from Elizabethan age. So that it is a significant initial stage, significant mark for the initial stage of English literature. Particularly in 17th century during the period of English Renaissance. What is Renaissance means? Rebirth. Renaissance means it's a kind of the rising English stage and English novel, particularly its formation. Meanwhile, many English literary works were translated from Greek and Rome, that means Latin, Greek and Latin literature into English literature. For example, Plutarch's Lives was translated by Sir Thomas North in 1579. Plutarch's Lives, literary work of Greek and Roman, Greek and Latin, not in English literature, but it is translated. See, it is not PG, particularly it is not PG, it is a topic. You don't take it as a PG syllabus. Okay, what is your name?
Sir, I'm asking about page number, sir.
Yeah. Can you name your
Nishita, sir.
page number? Okay. I'm not explaining from your, yeah, Nishita, I'm not explaining from your textbook because literature by William J. Long, okay, and English literature by JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and English literature from DU, Delhi University. I'm referring all these books. My topic is broad. I'm explaining broadly, but coming to English literature UG of Ambedkar Open University, it is very narrow perspective. But the thing is, when you do understand this much broadly, you can write easily. Anyway, actually, I did ask yesterday that I put in the group, if anyone is staying around the Usmania University or Nallakunta, Secunderabad, nobody was answered because someone responded they are staying at GD Metla because I need your textbook, UG textbook. And Madhuri Madam also said that you can take a textbook from students, but nobody was responded in the yesterday group. Yeah, if anyone is nearby me, near Osmania University, yes.
I responded. I said no.
But Nishita, you are staying at Nishita is you are staying at Jedmetla, right? And someone said no textbook. If you have the textbook, we will go through a prescribed syllabus, right? But I don't have the textbook, unfortunately. Anyway, which I am discussing, the topics are. You are from?
Himayatnagar.
Hello. Yeah, can you text me can you text me from your WhatsApp number? I will collect the textbook today evening, if possible.
Okay, sir.
After 2-3 weeks, I will return you. Don't bother about the textbook. Definitely, I will give you. Okay.
No problem.
May I know your name?
Nishita, sir.
Yeah, Nishita, just text me your WhatsApp number to my WhatsApp number.
Okay.
You know my WhatsApp number, right?
No, sir.
Just text me, sir. I am Nishita. 9000.
1 minute, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Just come to my
9000 383 383
383
281.
Yeah.
Yeah, just 281. Just text me now itself.
281. Okay, sir.
Yeah, just text me now itself, sir. I am Nishita, like that. Put a message to me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I get the textbook from now onwards, I will go through the textbook, which is prescribed for your UG syllabus. Anyway, which I am discussing now also is related to the same topic and same syllabus, but the thing is, it is broad. It is broad, which we are discussing that the what it is called 17th century English literature, particularly the Renaissance to Restoration period. It is moreover in 17th century, so many English literary works are translated from Rome and Greek language into English language. So, particularly, as I said now, Plutarch's Lives was translated from Greek Roman to English literature by Thomas North in 1579. Its original form is French, not Greek, French actually. And you know one thing, Sir Charles Montaigne, he was a famous essayist in French. And Sir English Bacon, who is famous in English essays, in English, Sir what it is called, Sir Francis Bacon is famous in English literature for essays. These, what it is called, these types of essays works is derived from French essayist Montaigne. That means Montaigne is called as father of essays. He wrote many essays in French language. Similarly, in English language, Sir Francis Bacon is famous for essays. You know, he says that some books are swallowed, some books are digested, some books are chewing, like that. There was a quotation, famous quotation by Sir Francis Bacon. Yeah, now we know that in English literature, Sir Francis Bacon was called as father of English essays or essayist. Similarly, the father of essays in French or France, Montaigne, please remember. And you know, Ovid's Metamorphosis was translated by Arthur Golding. There are two metamorphoses. One metamorphosis which was written in the 20th century, years of the 20th century by Franz Kafka. And another metamorphosis is poem, which was written by Ovid. Particularly, this was contains 15 poems, 15 books of poems. Ovid's Metamorphosis is a poem. This poem consists 15 books, whereas Franz Kafka's Metamorphosis was written in 1915, around that period only. That means in 20th century. So among other works, foreign origin translated into English were particularly Ariosto's Orlando Furioso, which was written by Harrington in 1591. And Homer's Iliad, this is epic in Greek. You know, Homer was a famous Greek author. He wrote many epics. The Odyssey were famous epics which were written by Homer. Please remember. This is 1598. And you know one thing, Homer's Iliad was translated into English by George Chapman in 1598. So we can understand that from French literature, from Greek literature, from Latin literature, so many literary works were translated into English literature, which we have, right? That means English novel also borrowed from Boccaccio, Cintio, and Bandello and Strafarola. All these are Latin language writers, Italians. Boccaccio, Italian, Cintio, Italian, Bandello, Italian, Straforella, also Italian. That means from Latin language also we have been borrowed so many literary works into English language. Like I said now, Homer's Iliad was translated by George Chapman in 1598. Right. At the same time, particularly what it is called Renaissance means a flowering again of art. That means the rebirth of the art. You know one thing in English literature, not only in English literature, in history, there was a significant incident. What it is called Constantinople was fell down in the year of some 1400s ago. I don't know exactly what is the year. With the fall down of Constantinople, so many authors, they what it is called, they fed off with various places. They run away from Turkey to various places. With these incidents, many authors, particularly many authors, they are run away to Greek and Rome. And when the so many literary translated so many literary works from Greek so many literary works from stored. That means Renaissance means a flowering again of art and culture. Rebirth of art, rebirth of culture, rebirth of sculpture. Particularly, it included a sense of wonder in things. England also wanted to revive what it is called. England also wanted to rival Spain, France, and Portugal in her navigational tramps. Yeah, as I said, it is related to culture, history, and literature also, art also related to the historical things. When England was trustee of conquest to the Spain, France, and Portugal in navigational aspects. Thus, in 1578, Sir Francis Drake, what it is called, circumnavigated the world. In 1588, the English Navy destroyed the Armada. Yeah, there was a historical incident in history, particularly in 1588, Sir Francis Drake, he rounded the world, and in 1588, the English Navy was destroyed, the Armada, that is called destroy of the Armada, in particularly in English history. The same spirit of adventure in literature when the incidents. What is the incidents? English Navy was destroyed the Armada. Armada is a place like a particular foreigners, what it is called, settlement in England. The same spirit also continued in literature also. That means it is a spirit of like competent or competitive spirit to conquest the goods and places, to conquest others' lands. You know that English people came to India in 1600 AD. That is East India Company with the concept, with the what it is called, with the consent of Queen Elizabeth I. They came to India as a traders and commerce. But you know, they came as a traders and commerce, and they ruled India for 200 years. And they were remained as colonizers. We were remained as colonized people. What is colonized? What is colonization? East India Company came to India to form some colonies, settlements, ports, to make business transactions with Indians. But when they came to India, when they set up some settlements or ports in India, gradually they gained political power over Indians. Similarly, not only all over the India, all over the world they spread. That is imperialism, trustee of imperialism. With the process of colonization, in the process of imperialism, British East India Company spread all over the world. Along with their spread, they also spread the language. The language itself is English. Are you getting me, friends? Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, when the arms are destroyed in 1508, monarch Sir Philip Sidney, he is also Renaissance poet. Edmund Spencer
You are not audible, sir. You are not audible, sir.
Is it okay now? Hello?
Yes, it's okay now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Due to signal problem, it was interrupted. Anyway, so Edmund Spenser is one of the foremost and significant writer of Renaissance poetry, which he wrote that Fairy Queen is a famous book. Particularly, Edmund Spenser's span is 1552 to 1599, and his Shepherd's Calendar 1579 also famous. And he wrote so many hymns. He wrote so many what it is called like Mother's Hobart Tale to denounce the neglect of arts and letters. He also famous for pastorals. Pastorals means like who writes what it is called rug areas like rural area background poems, right? Similarly, he also wrote that Amoretti is a famous literary work. Who Edmund Spenser, and his Fairy Queen was written in 1589, and particularly it is an allegory. Allegory means by allegory we can say some moral message, we can give some moral message to the society or to the reader. Similarly, this Fairy Queen consists so many allegorical messages to the reader or to the what it is called viewer, and particularly is Fairy Queen is nothing but resembles the period of, that means indirectly he also what it is called described a character which is resembled or which is related to Queen Elizabeth I. So you should remember the Fairy Queen, which was written by Sir Edmund Spenser, reputed literary work which is related to which is pertaining to Renaissance poetry. Next author is Sir Philip Sidney. He was his duration is 1554 to 1586, and he was a scholar, knight, and courtier. In 1580, he wrote Arcadia. His Arcadia is famous pastoral. Edmund Spenser also, similarly, Sir Philip Sidney, famous for pastoral. His reputed pastoral, Sir Philip Sidney's pastoral is Arcadia, which he wrote in the year 1580. And you know one thing, all these are contains romance of chivalry and love. All these are pastorals contained related with love and romance. In the period of 17th century, early years of the 17th century, particularly Renaissance period, Renaissance literature, we can see this kind of pastorals. The language is characterized by pathetic fallacy. Pathetic fallacy means it is a kind of way of writing. And Shakespeare borrowed from this style. Shakespeare also, in his poetry, so many what it is pathetic fallacy of writings were borrowed. Astrophel and Stella. Arcadia is also pastoral, which is written by Sir Philip Sidney, and Astrophel and Stella is also written in 1591 by Sir Philip Sidney. It describes his what it is called last love for the daughter of an earl. That means it describes his last love for the daughter of an earl. It is related to and Stella. And his another literary work is Apology for Poetry, which was written in 1595, written in an unaffected prose and is a plea for poetry. That means we can understand it is a form, it's a form of prose and poetry. And third significant author or writer of Renaissance poetry is John Lyly, who was lived during the period of 1554 to 1606. He invented an artistic style called euphemism. Yeah, he's famous for euphemism. And his euphemism through his famous romance UPS also written by John Lyly. The UPS, another name is The Anatomy of Wit. You know what is euphemism? So a serious thing also can be said by in a funny way. What is euphemism means, for example, my grandfather kicked the bucket. What did you understand?
He's not alive.
Yeah, he's not alive. He died. Otherwise, some X or Y, he kicked the bucket. That is called euphemism. That means the euphemism is famous. The euphemism is created by John Lyly. His famous literary work is UPS, The Anatomy of Wit. Wit means it's a funny, which was written in 1579. And this style was adopted by the refined people of the court. The style is characterized by the use of alteration and antithesis. These antithesis, alteration, metaphors, all these are figures of speeches. Figures of speeches. For example, you know simile in English language. In a sentence, if we see that as and like, we can understand that that sentence belongs to simile. It is a comparison between two things. He looks like me. It is a simile, sentence of simile. She is as Aishwarya Rai. She looks as Aishwarya Rai. He looks as Amitabh Bachchan. He looks like Amitabh Bachchan. Where as and like is used in a sentence, this sentence belongs to simile. Similarly, this simile, antithesis, alteration, and metaphors are figures of speech. Figures of speech in English language. Yeah, anyway, Samuel Daniel, Michael Drayton, Thomas Watson, Henry Constable, and Thomas Lodge, these are the notable poets of Renaissance poetry in English literature. Samuel Daniel's The Civil Wars, 1595. It is described about the what it is called War of the Roses. In world history, we can see War of the Roses between England and France. Yeah, I got it. Between England and France in world history, there was a famous war between England and France. That name is War of Roses. War of Roses. Similarly, This Samuel Daniels, the Civil Wars also, which is written in 1595, describe about the this what it is called War of the Roses. Michael Drayton, Shepherd's Garland is also famous. The Bourbon's Wars, England's Heretical Epicals, all these are the belongs to Renaissance period. And Thomas Campaign, he is also published that 2 books of Iras. Thomas Dekker, Leander, and Shakespeare. William Shakespeare is a famous, that in English works, English drama. His great work that Venus and Adonis, which is written in 1593, also belongs to Renaissance period. And he is the Rape of Lucrece, 1594. William Shakespeare's Venus and Adonis, which is written in 1593. And another literary work is The Rape of Lucrece, which is written in 1594, are famous for what it is called Renaissance poetry. And after Elizabethan period, Jacobean period was started in English literature. Jacobean period means after Queen Elizabeth reign, James I came to the throne. Right? Yeah. Anyway, the Protestant spirit dominated the Brown, particularly when the Elizabethan term was over. James I came to the throne, he ascended the throne, and Jacobean period was started pertaining to the English poetry. And Ben Jonson, his term is 1573 to 1637, was the greatest humorist of the time. Yeah, he wrote that what it is called Anatomy of his famous, Ben Jonson's famous writing was that Epigrams and the Forest, the Underwoods. These are the famous books which was written by Ben Jonson, John Donne also belongs to the Renaissance period poetry, His span is 1573 to 1631. His poetry is revolutionary poetry. He is famous for revolutionary poetry, John Donne. Yeah, he disobeys the laws of rhythm and uses of device called the metaphysical conceit. Yeah, John Donne is famous for metaphysical poet because he omitted all the rules and regulations which are related to the poetry. He did not bother about the rules and regulations in poetry, particularly about rhythm and device. He followed that metaphysical conceit. Yeah, metaphysical conceit means that which strangely oppose ideas are juxtaposed. 2 dimensions were exposed in his poetry, particularly opposite directions. Juxtaposed means opposite directed matters, literary arguments, literary things were juxtaposed in his literature, John Donne's literature, that is called metaphysical conceit. Yeah, coming to this is about the poetry. You should remember that these Sir Philip Sidney, Edmund Spenser, John Lilly, Thomas Dekker, Samuel Daniel, and Michael Drayton, right? Thomas Campion, Ben Jonson, John Donne, all these are belongs to the Renaissance poetry. Let us discuss about Prose, Renaissance prose. Yeah, you know that there were university wits,
Will you
7
please repeat the
university
name?
wits are there. Yes?
Will you please repeat the names of those writers? Poetry.
Yeah, definitely. Sir Philip Sidney, Sir Philip Sidney, Edmund Spencer, John Lilly, Samuel Daniel, Michael Drayton, Thomas Champion or Campion, whatever you wrote, both are correct. Campion. Thomas Campion. Right. You know, Shakespeare also. And Ben Jonson, John Donne.
Yeah, okay, sir.
These writers are in English literature. Let us see about Renaissance prose. What are the prose works? What are the prose writers? Who are the prose writers of Renaissance prose? Let us discuss. You know that there are university wits, you know, like Robert Greene, Thomas Lodge, Thomas Nash, Thomas Dekker, Thomas Lodge. These are called Richard Hooker. These are called university wits. University wits prose is nothing but Renaissance prose. Thomas Kidd also, Christopher Marlowe also. You know, Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. Yesterday I was forget that to tell. Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus is a famous drama in English literature, particularly Renaissance or prose drama. Yeah, I will discuss in the next class about the Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. How Dr. Faustus was thirsty to acquire knowledge and how he was lost his life. That is the theme of Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. Anyway, these university wits, Thomas Lodge, Thomas Nash, Robert Greene, John Lilly. Again, John Lilly also comes under university wits under prose authors. And George Peele, John Lilly, George Peele, Thomas Nash, Thomas Lodge, Robert Greene. All these are university wits because they were studied in university, particularly in England. They came out from universities and they were considered as intellectuals, versatile genius, so that they were named as university wits. Who are they? Thomas Lodge, Thomas Nash, Thomas Dekker, Robert Greene, John Lilly, Christopher Marlowe, and what it is called George Peele. All these are university wits poets. Please remember, this is very important for your UGC net exam also. In further on, if you're going to write in net exam, who are the university wits? They will give like that questions also. Yeah, anyway, these Robert Greene, Thomas Lodge, Thomas Nash, Thomas Dekker, Richard Hooker were famous for Renaissance prose writers. You know that Robert Greene and Thomas Lodge's Rosalinda is a famous book, famous prose. And Thomas Nash wrote more pamphlets like the Anatomy of Absurdities, The Terrors of the Night. Another writing is The Terrors of the Night, which was written by Thomas Nash. Right. The Giles Horn book is written by Thomas Dekker. The Giles Horn book, which was written by the Thomas Dekker. I am repeating once again. See, Robert Greene's Mammalia, Mamilia, Mammalia, and Menaphon. Menaphon means Menaphon. These are the books which were written by Robert Greene. Mammalia and Menaphon. Menaphon or phone, whatever you can write. Menaphon. Robert Greene. And Thomas Lodge. Rosalinde. Rosalinde is a famous literary work by Thomas Lodge. And the Anatomy of Absurdities, and the Terrors of the Night, Thomas Nass. These are written by Thomas Nass. The Anatomy of Absurdities and the Terrors of the Night. These books are prose books which are written by Thomas Nass. And Thomas Dekker, the Giles Horn books. The Giles Horn books written by Thomas Dekker, which is a great or famous picturesque prose. This is a picturesque prose. The Giles Horn book is a famous for its picturesque prose, which was written by Thomas Dekker. Right. You know one thing, that most of the poets and prose writers of this period were also dramatists. Shakespeare used prose for homely and humorous scenes and verse for tragic ones. Yeah, Shakespeare also wrote so many prose works. At the same time, he also dramatist. And these writers were used so many scenes from prose to the drama. Please remember. Yeah, anyway, next one is Stephen Gosens, The School of Abuse, 1579. Stephen Gosens, Stephen His famous book is The School of Abuse, which was written in 1579. And I said previously that Sidney's Apology for Poetry also a good example of English Renaissance prose. Particularly criticism, these books, The School of Abuse and the Apology for Poetry, pertaining to criticism, literary criticism, and what it is called theory and criticism, we can see in these books. And you know what is that? Francis Bacon, who is the father of English essay?
Francis Bacon.
Yeah, exactly. But in France, Montaigne. Montaigne is the famous essayist in France. The father of essay in France is Montaigne. This form of essay we derived from Montaigne in English, into English. In English literature, Sir Francis Bacon is considered as father of essay. And he also wrote so many essays, Novum Organum. He elaborated his doctrines in his Novum Organum, which is written in 1620. Yes?
Nothing.
Yeah, the Royal Society for Improving Natural Knowledge. He influenced the formation of the Royal Society in England in 1645, Sir Francis Bacon. And You know one thing, his essays written on diverse topics in a terse epigrammatic style. The English writers quote that Bacon's today, you know, many English writers has taken his quotes in their writings. As I said now, Bacon's famous quotation is, some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. Yeah, see how we take food. We take food by chewing, and we take food by tasting. Similarly, his famous quotation pertaining to books, that some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. This is the famous quotation which was given by the Sir Francis Bacon. Another great prose writer of the period was Robert Burton. The Anatomy of Melancholy was written in 1621, is full of pedantry. He borrowed from numerous sources and is full of melancholy and jests. His style abounds in synonyms and epithets. Robert Burton also famous for his The Anatomy of Melancholy. It's a famous book, right? And coming to, this is prose. Yeah, coming to prose writers, you should remember Robert Greene, Thomas Dekker, Thomas Lodge, Thomas Nash, Richard Hooker, Francis Bacon, Robert Burton. These are the Renaissance prose writers. Please remember. If you remember these writers, you can write so much. I am repeating once again. Robert Greene, Thomas Lodge, Thomas Nash, Thomas Dekker, Richard Hooker, Francis Bacon, and Robert Burton. All these are the prose writers of Renaissance period in English literature. Yeah, anyway, we shall wind it up here. See you in the next class. Hope next class is, anyway, I will put the message when we have the next class in the WhatsApp group. Okay.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome.